Okay, welcome to the show. Um, I have I've got some thoughts that I need to get off my chest today. There's some things, some issues going on when it comes to the NBA playoffs that I think there's some obvious things that are happening that people seem to be ignoring or don't want to say out loud. So that's what I'm here to do. So look, these are my, I'm gonna give some notes on some of the teams, some of the things that I've been thinking about recently when it comes to what's happening with some of these teams and what's happening with the playoffs. First of all, the thing that I don't understand why no one will say this, but you can see it. It's obvious from watching the games. The Eastern Conference is pretty bad. Like, now it's not as bad as it was in 2002, 2003. It's not as bad as it was back then, but it's a substandard conference, and that's what it is, and you can tell by watching the games. Like, just as a consistent theme, like, look, I've been watching the NBA religiously pretty much since about 1990, so almost 40 years now. And I know what a championship team looks like. And most of these teams are not even close. Not even close. So that's my overall point, what I'm leading the show with, that I want to get out there, and I'll explain more as we go on. But yeah, this is like, come on, this is a joke. This is like watching the SEC in football or in college football against the Mountain West. I mean, one is far superior to the other, and you can tell it easily by watching the games. So a few things that I had about round one that I wanted to touch on. Two teams that I wanted to talk about. The two teams that were really the first round surprises: the Boston Celtics and the Denver Nuggets. My first thing about the Celtics is, I don't think the Celtics were ever that good to begin with. And I figured that out really fast once the playoffs started and I watched, you know, who's on their team and what they were capable of doing. Everyone's locked in on, well, they shoot too many threes. That's the problem. This style of play is just not going to work, and you can't play like this, and they're just jacking it up too much. And, there's too much variance, and that's why they don't win. No, they won in 2024 playing the exact same style. So the style did work 2 years ago. So what's the difference between this Celtics team and 2 years ago? Very simple. The players are much better. Okay. When you have Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday and Al Horford, and you play that style, you can get away with it because they had better shooters 2 years ago. Not only that, Tatum was healthy, so he played a lot better at that time. Last year and in 2024, played a lot better than he can now. Okay. So you can play that style that they played with the 3-pointers if you have good enough players. They didn't have good enough players this year. No disrespect to the Baylor Shiremans and Jordan Walshes and Neemias Queta and a bunch of other guys who are completely irrelevant in the league. And these guys wouldn't play for other teams in the playoffs. They certainly wouldn't start, and they probably wouldn't get off the bench for most of the other teams in the playoffs, and definitely the Western Conference teams. So I don't care how many games they won in the regular season. Everyone's shocked by, oh my God, they did so well in the regular season. Yeah, the reason they did so well in the regular season is because they play hard and they jack up a bunch of threes. And during the regular season, if you do that, especially in the Eastern Conference, you can win 56 games that way. You absolutely can. But it was clearly obvious they were struggling with Philadelphia before Joel Embiid came back. And then once Joel Embiid came back, the talent disparity was clear. So, you can complain, well, the Celtics still should have won the series. Maybe they should have, but what difference does it make? That's not a championship team, and they're not good enough to go much farther than that. So, I think I don't know why we can't just say it. Why none of the analysts can just say it, because to me, it's quite obvious. Okay. I had a couple other things on the Celtics. Jason Tatum didn't play in game 7 and got a little banged up in game 6. So, got taken out of the game. And then the complaints afterwards by everybody was like, well, they played him too many minutes. Why'd they play him so many minutes? Well, they were getting ready for the playoffs. What did you think was going to happen? This to me was obvious from the beginning. Jason Tatum should not have played at all. Okay. They shouldn't have brought him back. It was irresponsible to do so. They're lucky he didn't get seriously injured at some point because they wore him out in that playoff series. So, I don't care how many minutes he played. Well, if they'd have played him less minutes, it would have been okay. What do you think is going to happen when you bring back one of the best players in the league and you're in the playoffs? He's going to play. And of course, he's medically cleared to play. That's great. That doesn't mean he should play. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it or it's good for you or your career. So this, to me, the Celtics made a huge gaffe here. And thank goodness the Celtics lost in the first round, because they could have damaged their franchise going forward. This guy is your franchise player. What are you doing screwing around playing him in these games when you don't have a championship team? And if you thought you did have a championship team, then we got major problems within that organization. So, mistake by the Celtics to play him at all. And by the way, I'm not saying this now. I was saying this for months. Like, this is a bad idea. It's not worth risking it. And, I hope they learn their lesson. The other issue is that they came out recently. I know Jaylen Brown said a bunch of stuff on his live stream or whatever. And then now everybody at ESPN is talking about, well, should he be traded? I think it'd be a good trade. They should trade him for Giannis. They should do that. First of all, no, they shouldn't trade him at all. He's not asking for a trade. And even then I still wouldn't trade him. But no, I do not think they should trade him. I do not think this subject should be on the table. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. They have two guys. They have two huge wings that this is what everybody wants in the NBA. Players who can play both ways, guard multiple positions. This is exactly what every team wants. No, I would not trade him for Giannis. As great as Giannis is, he's 32 years old. And I just think it changes the calculus for your team. I don't think it's worth it. I wouldn't do it, and they shouldn't do it. So yeah, no, I think the Celtics are where they're supposed to be. Like, okay, they had a much better season than they thought they were going to have. Some of that probably had to do with the fact that a third of the league was tanking. So, they won 56 games in the Eastern Conference when half of the Eastern Conference was tanking. So, you got to take that into account, and I don't think people did enough of that. Okay, the Denver Nuggets. Look, they got beat. It was pretty disappointing the way that they played. And what became obvious to me in the series, and I think should be the headline of the whole thing, is Minnesota's general manager used to work for Denver. Whatever they've replaced him with in Denver does not work. Tim Connolly is running circles around the Denver Nuggets organization. And you can draw a direct line. As soon as Tim Connolly left to go to Minnesota, Denver has been slowly getting worse. And I loved all the guys that they brought in this offseason. My concern obviously was, are they going to be healthy? And, Aaron Gordon was not healthy. And Peyton Watson, both of those guys were not healthy, but they were already on the team. The new guys that Denver brought in all failed. They all look pretty bad. Cam Johnson, I know, played pretty well in the last two games of the playoffs, but the moves that they made did not work at all in Denver. I don't know what Denver's going to do now, but they failed because of their management. I know everybody's going to go, oh, well, Gobert, stopped Jokic and whatever. Yeah, that's a fair criticism, but it really doesn't matter if the rest of the guys on the team don't play better. They're not winning that series anyway. So I'm not sure what Denver should do. I think they probably need to make some kind of trade or something to try to improve their team. But if it's the same general manager, I'm not sure what they can do about it, because, Bruce Brown, Cam Johnson, Tim Hardaway, and even Christian Brown, they were pretty useless. They couldn't guard whoever they were guarding, and they didn't make open shots, and that's what they're there for. So yeah, it's disappointing. I don't know what Denver's going to do now, because I don't think they're going to be at Oklahoma City and San Antonio's level. So yeah, that was disappointing. I was pulling for Denver, but you can't play like that and think you're going to go anywhere. All right, so let's go through some of these series. The Lakers, Oklahoma City. I mean, I'm not sure what the point of this series is going forward. The Lakers really have very little chance. Oklahoma City could beat the Lakers with their bench. They really don't even need their starters to win this series, especially with Luka out. If Luka were to play and he was actually himself, then this could be entertaining, but it is a failure. They're not gonna. This team is way too good for them, and they don't have the roster for it. So I think it's disappointing. And I just want to point out to people criticizing Luka, well, he never plays. Well, he played in the playoffs last year. I took them to the finals in 2024. 2023, they didn't make the playoffs. 2022, they took them to the conference finals. And both 2021 and 2020, he played in the playoffs. So I don't understand what people are saying. Well, he's not healthy. No, he's healthy most of the time. And he was healthy most of the season. He just got injured right at the end, which really messed up the Lakers' chances. So yeah, I would expect Oklahoma City to. I mean, before the series, I said Oklahoma City in 5. We'll see if the Lakers can win a game. And another thing with the Lakers is I know everyone got upset about Austin Reeves not playing well after he came back from an injury. Like, first of all, everybody slow down. He's coming off an injury. He's not himself yet. He will be eventually. But I think this is a problem for the Lakers going forward. They have some big decisions to make this offseason. They got to decide whether they're going to keep LeBron and what number they're going to try to keep him at. And then I think paying Austin Reeves $40 or $50 million a year is a big mistake. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think they're going to be able to afford it. And I think it's going to massively impact their team if they do. I don't know if they're going to be able to trade him. I don't know what they're going to be able to do, but I just think a team where Luka and Austin Reeves are making a ton of money is just, I think that's a recipe for not going very far. Yeah, Oklahoma City, I really, the only concern with them is when does Jalen Williams come back? I think they're going to win this series relatively easily. I think Oklahoma City can win the championship without Jalen Williams, but, we'll see how it goes. The Minnesota San Antonio series. I think from watching the first game, I know the Spurs blew them out in the second game, but I think Minnesota has some advantages that are going to be a problem for the Spurs. The Wolves are really athletic. Timberwolves are really athletic, but the Spurs might be a little more athletic, but they're also young and inexperienced. So we'll see how this goes. I think Minnesota has some real advantages. Jaden McDaniels, Julius Randle, Naz Reid, they're all bigger than the guys that are guarding. So they should be able to just get their shot off over them relatively easily. And Anthony Edwards, if he can get back closer to 100%, I think this is a really competitive series. I thought that beforehand. I took the Spurs in 7 before it started, and I don't think the Timberwolves are going anywhere. I don't think this is a pushover. I don't think the Spurs are just clearly better than them. I think the Spurs have to play with a lot of energy, and if Minnesota can match that, they have some stuff that's not going to go away. They can guard a lot of the Spurs players with the guys that they have, and they can cause them a lot of problems. So yeah, I think this is highly competitive. I think Wembanyama's got to score more for them to, they need to get De'Aaron Fox and Wemby need to score more to get the Spurs to win this series. If they don't, they could be in some trouble. All right, Cavs Pistons. Look, you want an example of why I don't think the Eastern Conference is very good. These two teams are a perfect example of that. I'm not sure what some of the guys are doing a lot of the time. I think Asar Thompson for the Pistons, and I think Evan Mobley for Cleveland. I think they're incredibly disappointing. I think they should be better than they are, and I'm not sure what they're doing out there a lot of the time. Thompson for Detroit, I feel like he should be moving towards the basket a little bit more. I feel like there's things you could run with him. They could run pick and rolls with him and Jalen Duren to try to create some issues. I think he's clogging up space on the court. I think he's got to go to the basket more. I know you can't shoot threes, but dude, can you make a jumper from the free throw line? Like, can you just make some kind of shot that they have to defend? Because right now he's getting in the way a lot of the time, and I'm not sure what he's doing out there. And, Detroit, they have some things that will work. The Cunningham and Duren pick and rolls, they can do that. They have, they can do stuff with Tobias Harris. There's things they can do, but they just go through these long stretches where it's just bad offense. Like they've got to have much better flow and ball movement if they want to move anywhere. And Evan Mobley for Cleveland, like, dude, I don't even know what you're doing out there. You're this big athletic guy and you're getting punked by by the other center on the other team. And I'm not sure what the value is, man. Like, you're not stopping anybody at the rim. You're getting abused in some of these pick and rolls. Like, it's incredibly disappointing. They should be better than they are at this point. And I'm not sure what James Harden is doing out there. He dribbles a lot. You know, if he's not driving to the basket, he's pretty much useless. So I just don't know how. I like Detroit. I said Detroit in this series. I think it's going to go 6 or 7. Um, but I'm not thrilled with either team. Like, it's disturbing that one of these teams is going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals with a chance to go to the finals. Yeah. I'm not in love with it. I think Detroit has some promise. I think they've got some things that they do well. I think they're on the right path, but I just don't think they're there yet. And it, looks like they're trying to figure it out. Okay. And now the New York Philadelphia series. I mean, look, this is going to come down to whether, Embiid can give them enough games to have Philly to have a chance in this series. I think they do have some advantages with the guards. I think Maxey and Edgecombe have some advantages, and Paul George can still do a lot of stuff. But it's just going to be hard for them style of play wise. They got to get up and down the floor a lot, play really fast in order for it to work. And that's hard to do for 48 minutes when you're really depending on 3 guys for the most part. And the Knicks, I like the Knicks. I think their continuity, the fact that they've had the same guys together for a while is gonna really help them. But they have major red flags. Karl Anthony Towns, just what games is he gonna do? Make dumb fouls and do dumb stuff and have to sit on the bench. And it's just, you can't do that if you're trying to win the championship and you're supposed to be the second best player on the team. So that's a problem that's not going to go away. I think their inconsistency with some of their players, like, they don't play the same way every game, and that's going to be a problem. It got them into trouble in the Atlanta series. They might be able to get out of the Philadelphia series like this. But I think these are issues. And look, nobody wants to hear this either. The Knicks are not a championship team. They're just not. That's not a championship roster. I know what one looks like. They don't have it. Like Jalen Brunson, small guards, they usually don't win in the playoffs. Like, there's a long history in the NBA of that. And players that you can't trust in playoff series, they can ruin your team. At some point, you run into a team that's more consistent, that plays together better, that doesn't commit stupid fouls, doesn't, is well coached and does what their coach is asking them to do. And that usually gets you beat. Right. So I'm sorry, these Eastern Conference teams, they have no chance. They're going to get to the finals and get wiped out by either Minnesota or Oklahoma City or San Antonio. One of those teams is going to beat them. And if the Lakers were fully healthy with Luka, they could beat all these Eastern Conference teams too. So I think it's great that the Eastern Conference is so even and that the games in the series are going to be a lot of fun. I think that's great, but yeah, these are not championship teams, and it's like the Eastern Conference is like the JV squad. I don't know why the analysts don't want to talk about it. I know they want to keep us all interested, but come on, guys, let's just tell the truth. Let's just tell it like it is. The Western Conference Finals will be the finals. I have Oklahoma City winning the championship again. I think they're going to, I think they'll beat San Antonio in the next series, assuming San Antonio moves on. I'm not saying Minnesota's dead. Minnesota has an excellent chance to win this series. And in the East, I think it's going to be Detroit and New York. And I think that's going to be a knockdown, drag out 7-game series. And the Knicks probably have more, overall talent and experience. I think Detroit has some advantages. Detroit's going to push them around physically. They're going to cause some problems for them. They did last year, and they almost beat them in the series. I think that is going to be a great series back and forth. I think Oklahoma City, San Antonio would be 7 games. Same thing with Minnesota, be 6 or 7 games. Yeah. So yeah, those are some issues with the playoffs that I've had that I've wanted to get out, and I don't understand why can't we just talk about it? The regular season is totally irrelevant now. I don't want to hear what you did in the regular season. It really doesn't matter. What does your team look like? Let me see what they look like in the playoffs. And, it became quite obvious, especially with Boston, they're just not good enough. We can talk about style of play. We can talk about all the other nonsense that you want to talk about. The bottom line is they just don't have good enough players. And as a final thing, not related to basketball, I just wanted to get this out there because I feel like it's coming, and I wanted to get this out there. College football. I think there's going to be a 2014 playoff in college football. I think it's going to take some time. It's going to take some years to unravel everything to get to the point where everybody agrees to it. But I think sometime by the end of the decade, I think it's going to happen. I personally think 16 would work just fine. I think 4 rounds it works nicely. I think more than that is a bit too much. I don't think we need a 5-round playoff. And there's a lot of things that need to be fixed before we get to that point. But I think it's coming. I think it's inevitable. Everyone's going to complain. Well, nobody wants this. Well, everybody will watch the games and they'll make a whole lot of money on it. So, in that sense, we do want it because we're going to be there for it. They know what to expect from us as the consumer, so they're setting an expectation, and they're probably right about it. I think it's going to take some time to. You got to figure out the conference championship game thing. You got to guarantee the SEC enough money so they're willing to get rid of their conference championship game. I think that's a big part of it. I think the bowls are a big part of it. I think you got to untangling all of those things together to figure that out. But yeah, it's just you're doubling the size of the playoff. Are you going to double the money? We'll see. It might come down to that. But yeah, I think it's coming, and the ESPN TV deal for the college football playoff is up in 2032. I think before we get to 2032, this will be worked out and changed by that time. It's starting to change. The SEC said no way. Now you got a bunch of coaches in that conference saying that they want that. But I think there's going to be some more years of posturing between the Big Ten and the SEC before they come to this agreement. But it's coming. The media is all going to go nuts about it. Oh, we don't need this. This is a disaster. Blah blah blah. It's not a disaster. It'll be fine. My philosophy with college football is very simple. I want more good games. Okay, in my opinion, you could get rid of half the college football season and it wouldn't matter, because I'm tired of watching Notre Dame play Navy and Alabama play South Carolina State and Texas play, Midwestern Minnesota. I don't want to watch these garbage games that they give us every year. Like, give me good games and I'm in on it. My philosophy has generally been, and especially with professional sports, less regular season games, more playoff games. I want more games that matter. I don't give a crap about a lot of these regular season games that don't mean anything. So I think every team could lose 3 or 4 games and it would be just fine, but they're not going to do that because they want to make their certain amount of money. So yeah, I think it's coming. It's inevitable. I'm not in love with the 2014 playoff, but it'll be totally fine. Everyone will watch. We'll all enjoy it. It'll work just fine. It's not a disaster. It's not going to ruin the sport. You could argue with me, well, regular season games will mean less. Well, they said that about the 12-team playoff, and has it changed anything? We're still all jacked up about watching games just as much as we were before. So I really don't think it matters. We will be excited about whatever they give us. So yeah, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at with that. And thanks for those are my thoughts on everything. If you have thoughts, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Catch you next time.